We may be in for some dazzling sights in the sky tonight and tomorrow. Scientists say recent activity on the sun could cause bright northern lights, possibly visible to Canadians in the south. The sun shot flares and magnetic plasma into space over the weekend, and that wave of energy is expected to be fairly intense as it arrives here on Earth over the next couple of days. The energy and small particles can interact with gases in our atmosphere, lighting up the sky. Canadians in the southern part of the country were treated to the aurora borealis, most recently in early May. Well, our next guest, Chris Ratzlaff, is a seasoned aurora chaser and who has plenty of experience viewing and photographing the northern lights, and he joins us now from Airdrie, Alberta. Thank you so much for making time for us, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Jacqueline.
So I explained a bit about what's going on up there, but what will people be able to see over the next couple of nights?
I mean, really, it's a great opportunity for Canadians across the country. When we get events like this, it brings the northern lights further south into the more populated areas of Canada, which means we can see the green, the pillars, the reds as they're overhead really is where we'll be able to see them best.
We're watching some footage now of it sort of going across the sky. And Chris, I wonder if this is your footage that you sent us. You did send us some. I'm not sure if it's this one, but it's quite stunning. It's quite beautiful. What we're watching is going over a city. Is that the best place to view something like this? Like, will you be able to see this from Toronto, say, or do you need to get out?
Toronto's a tough one. You can certainly, an event like this, if it reaches the forecasted levels, which is to be forecast to be a strong aurora event, you can see that from within some of the cities, Calgary, Edmonton, the edges of Vancouver. You can see these this kind of event. Toronto's a little bit of a trick. Toronto is a very, very bright city. My rule of thumb is if you can see the stars from where you are, there's a good chance that you can see northern lights at this kind of level.
Okay, yeah, on a very, very clear night, you can see some stars in downtown Toronto, Chris. So does the weather matter here? If it's a cloudy night, or are we going to be out of luck? Yeah.
Yeah, clouds are the bane of our existence. Okay. We definitely don't like it when it gets cloudy. We are often known as clear sky chasers as well. We're looking to see where those pockets of opening in the clouds are, and trying to find those opportunities to peek through the clouds when we are about to get skunked.
How might this display of lights compare to what was seen back in May that I mentioned, that aurora borealis?
If it reaches the same levels, it could be equally intense. What happened in May actually exceeded its forecast. May was forecast to be a strong event. It ended up being what we would call an extreme event. In May, the northern lights were actually in our southern skies. So this, right now, what it's forecast to be, would be overhead as opposed to being in the south, which is probably a little bit better for observations, for being able to see something really spectacular. Okay,
so let's see, you're positioned in a good spot, Chris. You've got a great view of all of this happening in the sky. How do you capture it? How do you make sure you get, an incredible video like some of the ones we've been showing there?
So our phones now these days, like the latest ones in the last 2 or 3 years, are doing really, really good at being able to capture the northern lights with just the regular phone. If you want something, and those are really good captures for social media. If you want something that you can print, that you can put up on your wall, then you want to start going towards a digital camera like an SLR, and with that you want to have a fairly long exposure, usually around 5 seconds, a very low aperture on your camera, however low it can go, and then the ISO on your camera, you want to be at the highest end before it starts to get noisy, which is about 1600 or 6400 ISO.
We were just taking a look at some of the images that you sent in, Chris. Sorry, I got it mixed up there, but the vertical video, and maybe we can bring it up again, because my goodness, that's so beautiful. When you think about some of the most impressive maybe images that you captured, was it Was it as impressive in person, or was it a bit of a trick of the camera that managed to capture it? And I mean, they are quite stunning.
So that one image that you showed with all the pink and the red, that was nearly the same to the naked eye. Maybe not quite as vibrant, but that red was really, really clearly visible. That's the first time that I've been seeing the aurora for a long time. That was the first time I was able to actually see red like that. So it can be. It can also vary by person quite a bit as well. I've stood next to people who could see really, really vibrant colors when I could only see something fairly faint. So it can vary by person. Like the sensitivity of the rods and cones in your eyeballs are going to affect how well you can see it. The camera, of course, is pretty universal. Cameras are very, very good at capturing this kind of low light activity. And so you're always going to see a little bit of a better image out of a camera than what the naked eye can always see.
Okay, so Chris, just very quickly here, where are you going to be watching from? Is Airdrie a good spot?
So a lot of times I am watching from Airdrie. Airdrie is not too bad. Airdrie is not quite as bright as Calgary. We're a little bit north of Calgary, and I can tend to see pretty good northern lights from within the city of Airdrie. The problem with seeing northern lights from within an urban area is those pinks and purples and reds aren't usually quite as visible. They're quite a bit dimmer. So what I tend to do is I head out a little bit from my home, maybe within about 30 or 45-minute drive, and I go to like a nice pond or a nice dark spot, and sometimes I'll find a couple of friends and we'll hang out and watch the northern lights together for a few hours. Okay,
well, you might find a couple of other people out there checking it out with you now as well, Chris. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That's Chris Ratzlaff joining us on some pretty incredible sights that could be seen soon.